The directions here are to figure out what tangent is, given that cotangent of theta is 6/5. Well, anyone who's worth his salt knows that cotangent is x/y, and that tangent's y/x. Therefore, this problem is simple. Cotangent and tangent are reciprocals. Therefore, tangent of theta is 5/6. Number 2, you're supposed to simplify cosine of x times cotangent of x plus sine of x. If you simply change cotangent to cosine over sine, and then multiply cosine times cosine, you get cosine squared over sine of x. Then get common denominators, take the sine of x, put it over 1, multiply the top and bottom by sine, you're going to get sine squared of x over sine. Add your fractions by adding the numerators, leave the bottoms the same. Cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x is 1. 1 over sine of x is cosecant of x. Number 3, this one is a doozy. If you change cotangent to cosine over sine, if you change the denominator, tangent, to sine over sine, if you change the other cotangent to cosine over sine, you get this. Lots of different ways to continue from here, but this seems to be the way that requires the least amount of work that I've seen. Instead of dividing by your denominator, multiply by its reciprocal. Note though, if you have more than one term in the numerator, it's got to be in parentheses. So my numerator of cosine divided by sine plus cosine times sine is in parentheses. Multiply by the reciprocal of the denominator, so it's cosine over sine. The same thing for the second fraction. Instead of dividing by cosine over sine, multiply by sine over cosine. Notice what was green and what is green. It's the same thing, written differently. The yellow became the yellow. If you now distribute the cosine over sine, cosine times cosine would be squared, sine times sine would be squared. In the second term, your cosines give you a squared, and in your denominator, your sine cancels with your numerator sine. On the right side here, our cosines cancel, so you get sine squared. So really what we have here, cosine over sine is cotangent. The second fraction simplifies to cosine squared. We all know that sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. And hopefully you know that cotangent squared of x plus 1 is cosecant squared of x. That's what the right side was all along. Number 4, verify that these are the same. Verify that the left side is the same as the right side. This left side, if I change tangent to sine over cosine, and if I take secant and write down its reciprocal, when you write down its reciprocal, then it goes from the bottom of the fraction to the top. So instead of dividing by secant, I'm multiplying by cosine. Cosines cancel. I'm multiplying three things together. The bottom has a cosine, so does the top. They cancel, so I get sine squared plus cosine squared. We all know that's 1. If I take the right side now, which is still complex, if I change tangent of b divided by cotangent to be tangent of b times tangent of b, once again, dividing by a number is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. Tangent and cotangent are reciprocals. Tangent times tangent is tangent squared. Then I know I have a Pythagorean identity. Secant squared of b equals 1 plus tangent squared of b. Tangent squared minus tangent squared cancel, so you get 1 is 1. Number 5, verify that both sides are the same. I would change tangent to cosine over sine. I would then get common denominators with my two fractions. I'd multiply the left fraction, top and bottom, by 1 plus sine of theta. I'd multiply the top and bottom of the right fraction by cosine. Once I distribute this first fraction, sine times 1 is sine times sine is sine squared. Cosine times cosine is cosine squared. My denominator, I'm not going to multiply it out. I'm just going to write it. Most of the time, my denominator, I don't want to actually multiply it out. I just want to write the terms being multiplied together. In my numerator, sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta is 1. Notice the numerator and denominator, you're multiplying by sine of theta plus 1, so they cancel, leaving us with 1 over cosine, which of course is secant of theta, which is what the right side was all along. Number 6, find a numerical value of one trig function of x. That means you're finished when you have one trig function by itself and you have a number on the other side by itself. Dividing by cotangent is the same as multiplying by tangent, because that goes back to dividing by something is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. If I change tangent to sine over cosine, recognize here that this fraction I'm going to be dividing by cosine. So I want to get common denominators here. I'm going to multiply the top and bottom of cosine over 1 by cosine and get cosine squared over cosine. Gives me sine squared of x plus cosine squared of x over cosine. When I add my fractions, the numerator becomes 1. 1 divided by cosine of x is secant. The right side was already a single number. This is one potential answer. There are 5 other answers that would work as well. Same directions for number 7. I would change cotangent to cosine over sine. Then I would multiply both sides by the reciprocal of cosine over sine. That will give me 1 on the right side of the equation because it's going to cancel on the right. So on the right, my cosines cancel, my sines cancel. On the left, my cosines cancel. I end up with sine of x equals 1. That is one answer. There are 5 other answers that are just as good.